Let everybody take a seat. Remember, there's some seats up front too. Don't be afraid to sit up front. I think each row has power, so if you're up front, need power, or on the ends. Don't be shy. Come on in. So while everybody's walking in, how many people this is your first time to an engineering workshop, or if you're going to Summit as well? First timers? Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's going to be an exciting couple of days. Are all of you all going to the Summit as well tomorrow? Yes? Perfect. All right. Now we can get started. So, for those who don't know, I'm Amber Grainer. I'm the Open Compute Community Manager, and I want to welcome each and every one of you to our Engineering Workshop Day. This is a little bit different than we've done in the past. We're having a complete day of engineering workshops where we normally only had a few hours as part of Summit. And so I want to be able to thank all of you who came today. I hope that you get lots out of today and that you enjoy the Summit tomorrow and Wednesday as well. I want to thank my project leads for all the hard work that they put into the engineering workshop. I want to thank Seagate for sponsoring the engineering workshop, and I want to thank Microsoft for giving us the use of our Surface Pros that are going to power the Hangouts on air today. So everything this time, this is a first for us as well, so bear with us as there's probably going to be a little bit of glitches in our remote participation. So if you know anybody who is remotely participating, remind them gently to be a little patient with us as we work through this progress or this process. This has been a year in the making to open up our engineering workshops to the public and get remote participation started. So you guys are going to be the first group to, or all are going to be the first group to go through this and help us test it, both everyone here today and those who are watching remotely. So we want feedback, so make sure that you let me know. I want to introduce you to somebody who's new to the foundation. His name is Corey Bell. Corey is our new CEO, and he is this wealth of information. He's one of those people that when you get a chance to know and you get a chance to speak to him, those of you who've already met him, has a calming presence, but a firm presence. He has a sense of direction about him, and he's a person that you want to follow. And so, having said that, I would like to invite Corey Bell up to the stage to speak to you all.
Hot? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where I'm from. As Amber said, my name is Corey Bell. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Let me start off with something funny. I know it's Monday morning. Everyone's come in, either flew it over the weekend. We have folks from all over the world.
Corey.
Europe.
This way, you're not on camera.
I'm not on camera. Okay. Where am I supposed to be?
Up there at the podium.
Oh, God. Do I have to? All right. Okay. Is this better?
That's better.
All right. So I appreciate the fact that everyone not only got here, but got here early this morning. I like to laugh, so if it's not funny, just laugh. Thank you. So 4 guys on an airplane, and if they're coming in and they just had this air trouble, and they find out that there are only 3 parachutes. And the first guy says, I'm a world-renowned neurosurgeon, so, hey guys, you're on your own. The world needs you. That's all. Second guy says, hey guys, I am a world-renowned data scientist. The world needs me. We are doing some really cool things. We're on the verge of a really big breakthrough. I'm out of here. The third guy was an open source guy, and a kid was left. So the open source guy said, hey kid, I've got all my stuff up on the wiki page. You can actually take my stuff and be able to go. Why don't you go ahead? The kid says, don't worry about it. We have 2 parachutes left. He says, I only have 2 parachutes left. You can go right left. He says, the other guy took my backpack. So, you know, as we're going forward, one of the things, and I'm so grateful to be as a portion of OCP, I'm just a business guy. I'm just a simple guy who likes to figure simple things out. And if I have to look at where we have some of the smartest minds in the world here today. And I would say that if there's anything that we need to be doing, we need to start driving towards what are we about? What's our true north as an organization? And to be honest, I have no idea what it is yet. I don't. I would like to be able to sit with each and every one of you over time and let's figure out what this thing needs to be. Because I think it needs to be an unplanned garden. It needs to be something that comes from the organization. But if there's anything that I think we do need to figure out as project leads, as groups, as member companies, what problems are we looking to really go solve? So one of the things that we're looking to try to drive in terms of the organization, and I literally just pitched this to the board last week, so you guys are getting this so hot off the presses, it's not even funny. And I was talking with Bill. Go right there. So I was literally just talking to Bill about this outside of the lobby just a few minutes ago. If I had to say, I think in 3. So my last business I sold was a company called Trifusion. I usually do things in 3s because I really can't remember anything past 3. So after 3, I'm just like, okay, great, this is what I'm doing. So if there's a triangle of our direction, I would say at the apex of our triangle, we should be focused on innovation. Without innovation, what are we doing? There's nothing else that we have to be able to drive. But innovation without an eye towards adoption is really a waste of time. And adoption leading to consumption. And so what is the difference between adoption and consumption? I think up to this point we've created some really cool things, some really cool whiz-bang things, but we have folks walking around and thinking, how do I buy this? If I want it, how do I go get it? How do I get my hands on it? And I think that's what we need to be thinking about as an organization and a bunch of really smart engineers. One of the things that I know for sure, when you give engineers a problem and give them something to solve, they start solving whatever that problem is. Those are problems that we have in the organization right now. We have a lot of really good things, but how do we start putting them together in a way that allows adoption to really start to try to train organizations? And then after that, how do we start really moving into large-scale consumption? We have several companies, different agendas, different things that are coming in. There's one thing I think we all have in common, and that's we want to be able to see a change. We want openness. We want things to be better. And I think the more we can do that, and the more free we can be, the better all things will be. I'm so grateful that everyone's here. I'm so grateful to be a part of this organization. I love to listen. So if you have thoughts, please bring them to me. I've sat down and had not fights or arguments, because we don't argue, but we did have heated arguments. And my arguments really are more in line with I'm just really trying to understand. So if I ask questions, please don't take any question that I ask as a combative way, because I'm trying not to be combative. I'm really just trying to understand. Because I think the more we can crystallize, the better off it's going to be, and the better off it's going to be for everyone. Are there any questions or any thoughts before I get up this thing? Guys, I appreciate, and ladies, I appreciate everyone being here, flying in today, and everyone have a great day.
Up next, we have Aaron Sullivan. Aaron is on our IC. He's also with Rackspace. Those of you who don't know what the IC is, it's our incubation committee. So Aaron's going to talk, though, because YF couldn't be here. Today to stand up here. Aaron is going to give us the update on the certification project.
Morning. we are going to be giving you an overview. I'm going to be giving you an overview in the next 10-15 minutes about what the certification and interoperability group is going to be doing, what's going to be covered in the workshops and the themes we're covering and so forth. I'm part of the incubation committee, and I sponsor the CNI work group. And as Amber said, that work group project lead is YF1 from Itri in Taiwan. And unfortunately, he couldn't make it here today. But we do have a picture of him. So we're going to show that. Look at that exciting, happy guy. It's probably not jet lagged from a flight from Asia, so that's good. He has been instrumental in helping the CNI team really start to get traction and actually get things done. As many of you know, when you start a project and a work group, a lot of times there's a great deal of talk before there's action. And in YF's case, he has spurred a great deal of action, both individually and through Itri. We have a number of people that will be hosting workshops over the next few days. Tao, who's sitting down here in front, and Paul Rad, both working certification labs and standards. Qi Lung from Itri is here. He's also on the incubation committee, and he's representing Itri. He'll be talking about what that lab has done. We have Barbara from Future Plus. I believe we'll be talking about component certification. That's a new thing for us, a new thing we're going to be adding. So, think components, think plugfest, that sort of thing. And then we have Asgar from Seagate as well, who will be hosting a joint session for storage certification spec and kit development. There's a few other names here on the list where we didn't have photos. If you're in the room and we didn't get your photo, I apologize. We would even take 4 photos. We just couldn't find any photos of you. These are general themes we're going to be covering. So there will be readouts on switch testing and certification. That's new stuff that we announced during the summit. There has been some advancement in some of the toolkits for server certification and the general framework. So we're going to be talking about some tools that have been developed. As I said earlier, component certification we'll be covering. And then Tao and I both have separate talks on making improvements to the certification framework and the process that we go through to develop new kits and new specifications. That will be a departure that some groups are already working on in practice, but we want to have a little bit more wide open discussion about today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So here's what we're going to be talking about for test readout. 1 to 2 p.m. today, Qi Lung and Paul will be talking about server certification testing. 2 to 3, we've got Asgar. And 4 to 6 on the 10th, tomorrow, Paul's doing his readout on efforts to certify our first, to do our first OCP switch certifications, work that I think just completed in the last couple of days. For tools this evening, we have Jeff Lane from Canonical that will be talking about the latest in the checkbox tool and some other work that we're doing there. And Rhonda from ABL, Erwin from Emulex, Sang-Hwang from Samsung, and Barbara will be talking about the current status of component certification and going from planning that we've been covering in work group calls over the last few months to more active process. I mentioned earlier that I'll be talking about the past, present, and future of certification. Cal will be talking about OCP ready, OCP inspired, and self-certification. Any questions? They're done separately. Some of them are joint sessions with other work groups, like storage is a joint session. I believe the server readout is a joint session. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong there. The server certification readout? Not a joint session. Okay. I think storage is the only joint session then. Any other questions?
One of the things that I was always, by the way, my name is Sunny, and my experience is dealing with a lot of OEM companies in the past. And in today's environment, a lot of the principal engineers in these companies have either retired or have moved on. But at the same time, what I've noticed is a lot of the knowledge that they had for years, and a lot of them are really very knowledgeable and open to share. I don't know, some of them have started to be involved with OCP so that they could share their past knowledge with their OEM companies, which I think would benefit us in this process. Because a lot of these they have done in the past, and experiences and knowledges like those are not written anywhere. And so I think those are valuable. So my question is, I don't know if we've started to see, how we started to reach out to some of these people.
Yes, yes. I don't know if you guys have, but I know we have that as well.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a few. I think Bill's a pretty good example in terms of enablement, working with Intel program where they were working with OEMs and ODM programs that would increase the reliability and yield of systems design. And as Amber said, the foundation is also brought some people in. We're welcoming those sorts in, and I think the session that Tao and I, each of our sessions, is probably a really good place for those individuals to come in and talk. It's a little bit more open-ended discussion, at least mine is, on evolving and improving certification from where we stand today, and determining where we add the best value by having OCP have its own unique certification. Any other questions?
I was going to point out Tao. Where did he go?
He was here.
He was here. I was going to make him stand up, but he's not in right now. So up next we have Jason Schaefer. Jason is he's our data center project lead. You might have met him before here last year, I think for the first time. So I'm going to let Jason talk about the data center project. And what I forgot to mention earlier is that I have 4 volunteers to help with our Google Hangouts on air. There would like to be anyone else to volunteer to help run the remote participation piece in your sessions. See me after this session so I can get you trained up on how to do that. So without anything else, Jason, floor is yours.
Thanks.
So I wanted to mention something that Corey said earlier that really, I empathize with very strongly, and that is the importance of adoption and consumption. But one additional point I would make to that is we can't have either of those things without participation. And so I actually joined Open Compute a little over a year ago, like Amber said, and it was from a different context at the time. I've been in the industry, in the data center industry, for almost 2 decades, which is kind of strange to think about this, but time flies, I suppose, when you're having fun. But when I came to the foundation, I came talking about data center operations. And you guys might remember, and maybe even some of you still think, that the data center group is data center design. But that is a very big portion of it. That was actually the way that the group was set up from Facebook, was the contribution of the data center specification, and it was fantastic. It was received very positively in the industry. It got a lot of discussion going, both on the operations and on the construction side. But the problem that we faced as a group was that it was maybe a little too insular. And really, there are 2 sides to the equation. And that is, as I said, the operations and the engineering construction. So for a while, the way that the data center group was, soliciting for contributions and ideas and innovation was all sort of in the context of more or less bolting on to what was already contributed. And this is a good idea, but it didn't get a whole lot of traction, and I've done a lot of reflecting on it myself, and I think that part of the big reason is that it is trying to innovate on something that most in the industry feel is bleeding edge or very leading. And it may not be applicable to the mainstream market for everybody. So then we kind of had to think about what else to do. We have had some progress though on the bolting on, and that is you guys may be familiar with the contribution from EDCS Power, Edison, DC Systems, I think was what they were called before. But anyway, it was taking the DC aspect of the original data center specification and expanding upon it. And that was kind of the approach that we were trying to take for a while. But as I mentioned, there were challenges with with direction of the group, and really, I think, having it a little too constrained. So that's why I mentioned that that there are two pieces to this. The racks, right? The construction, maybe not the best depiction of construction, but you get what I mean. And on the right side is the gears, the operations, the day-to-day. And we haven't really had, and this has been my struggle for a long time. The industry has not really had a agreed upon set of standards for the way the data centers are operated, maintained, and everything that goes along with that. What I hear countless times is, "Oh yeah, we operate in a fantastic manner." And I've done this a couple times where I have polled the audience and said, "How many of you are data center owners?" And then I get the hands up. And then I say, "How many of you guys feel that you operate better than average?" Anyone want to guess how many hands went down? Pretty much zero. Statistically speaking, this is not possible, right? I mean, maybe we got lucky and we had all the leading edge operators in the room, but really, the point is that everyone says that we operate with best practices. But I hate that term because it doesn't really exist. It is best practices by whose definition, and it's always the person you're talking to. So we haven't had that set of standards until just recently. And this really doesn't do it justice. The little logo on the bottom there is Schneider Electric. So Schneider Electric is contributing to the foundation what is called the Data Center Operation Maturity Model. And it is exactly what I just described. It is a framework that hits all of these 7 categories. And it has, disciplines, 7 disciplines, 26 categories across all of them. And this is probably the meat of what we're going to be discussing in the engineering workshops because it is very, very comprehensive. I promise you haven't seen anything like it. It describes within each discipline subcategories, as I mentioned, and then a 5-level maturity gradient in each single one of them. And what this is for, well, what it was initially developed for was for organizations to figure out the priorities of their business, align the data center to that, benchmark, figure out where they want to go, and develop a plan to go from point A to point B. There are also some side benefits to it, which are, for data center owners to differentiate themselves potentially. And we are in these particular areas. These are where we either self-perform or we've had a third-party auditor come in, and it's also regional. So right now, the only piece of it that is populated in terms of regions, which you look at like EH&S, for instance, OSHA falls in there, but that's U.S. only, that type of thing. So there's opportunity for that to be developed as well. The benefit to the foundation is not only having this out there for the industry to use and adopt and improve upon, but also, if I go back to what I was mentioning before, the direction that the data center group was struggling with. This, I firmly believe, will be a very strong framework for continued development of the data center group, both from a services perspective as well as a product perspective. And I don't really want to steal the thunder, but one of these that you'll hear more about, and please, I encourage you to attend the engineering workshop where we'll have more about this, but it is another contribution a pretty sizable one from Vapor. And this is along the lines of, it falls within the realm of operations management in the bottom left there, but it is the concept of orchestration, data center orchestration, which is, you know, some of you might think that's DSIM, but really it's, that's sort of it, but there's more to it. But anyway, like I said, this really doesn't do it justice. Please come, have a look at it at the submitted spec. It's not up yet, but it will be very soon. And I mean, it's, if nothing else, it's great leisure reading. Right, 87 pages. Who wouldn't want to read? So, and the final point I'll leave you with is I'll go back to the point of participation. Please, if you do nothing else, take nothing else away from this. Sign up for our mailing list, Data Center Group. We had a bit of a difficulty when we moved from data center design to data center. The list was, you know, there was some good action, but from the migration from one to the other, we lost some participants in that. It's just by virtue of the way the mailman works. You know, you kind of sacrifice privacy, or when you opt for privacy, you sacrifice portability sometimes in this particular situation. So sign up for our mailing list. Please participate. I strongly encourage you to come take a look at what we have to show today and for the rest of the conference, and just be a part of it. I have time for questions.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
In the 7 disciplines that you showed, have you guys considered data center security as a piece of that?
Physical security?
Physical, yeah.
Yes, it is there in some form. I'll be honest with you, it's been a while since I've digested the entire 87 pages, but it is at least called out. But you know, this is why it's being submitted, is because I don't contend that this is, you know, the final version in any way, shape, or form. And I should also mention that this is if you're familiar with the facility side versus the IT side, right? That delineation has existed ever since the inception of data centers, and this sort of falls into the realm of the facility side. I strongly feel that there should be an IT analogy to this, but you know, we have to work on working with the rest of OCP and within the data center group to develop that. But yes. Other questions? Yep.
Up next, thank you, Jason. Up next, we have our hardware management group. We have Rajiv Agarwal and Benjamin Kasib. I got that right? I hate mispronouncing names, but
Everyone. Good job.
all right, I'm gonna give you the mic.
Take your heavy lifting so you can talk. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Benjamin Kasib. I'm Rajiv Agarwal. We have like 5 tracks for the hardware management this time around. So this is the whole agenda for the weeks, was spread across 3 days. The 5 tracks or themes the first one is OCP initiative or initiatives. So we have in particular 2 tracks. We are trying to build some traction and build some stacks around it. One of them is multi-node management. So we know we had some requirements spec that's kind of not finalized yet. It's almost the 9.0. So we are trying to add a implementation stack around it. So you will see that this time around there is a presentation. You'll see more need around the stack. So it's more of here's how we do it, not just requirement stack. So you will see some implementation. The idea there is not just to have also the implementation, but also to have the interoperability spec which goes with it. And this kind of fall into the previous one, which is the CNI. So you will see like single socket servers being made by different vendors and designed by different data center providers and hardware vendors. What we want to know, we want to have like a plug and play type of model there. I know from the hardware side it's kind of over there, and there are presentations which the server team next team will talk about it. So what we want to make sure that that the software and the firmware, the manageable side is also interoperable. And to do that, we will have the interoperability spec. The other one, which is the firmware. So we know we had in previous meetings and previous workshops, we talked about firmware update, and we kind of back and forth. Yeah, it's a pain point. How do we update firmware reliably, repeatably, and a consistent, right? You will see that we work offline with the UFI.org, which is the firmware, essentially, organization, standard organization. And they will present some of our requirements the way from their point of view. So you will see they will try to tackle firmware update, or they have some kind of proposals for firmware update, bare metal provisioning, which is another topic, and diagnostics. So that will be a presentation by Zimmerman, which is the one of the members of the UFI.org from Intel, and Malcolm Kluser as well. Okay. And the second theme is industry insight and experience. So we brought this time around some speakers from startups and well-established companies as well. They will talk about some experiences with hardware management in a cloud environment. So we have Amir Michael. He will talk about the hardware monitoring. And we have also speaker Christian from Seagate. He will talk about how to monitor hard drives in a data center settings. And we'll also have Hari Ramachandran, and some probably know him. He's been in the manageability area for a long time. He actually going to talk about the open BMC architecture, and he has a startup that is building a BMC solution around that. The third theme is standard body cooperation. So, and I know there was lots of email and discussion. Are we a standard group? Why don't we do that? Why that group is doing that? So that is more of a kind of charter. The way we see it is like, okay, we are not just a standard organization. We are really a nonprofit. We drove certain stacks. We publish them. But also we cooperate with other organizations. I mentioned previously UFI.org. We work also with the MTF on the SPMF, which is called Redfish. And we will cooperate with other organizations as well. So we don't claim that we should be the only sole organization that publishes stacks. Okay. So we are extending our hands to all the orgs there, and we leverage the expertise and the strength of other organizations as well. So, we'll present the Redfish status and progress, and we have Irina Selban from Microsoft. We have Jeff Alter from HP, and they will go through the Redfish, and you will see also a demo of Redfish in action. Okay. I mentioned earlier UFI and Cloud Initiative. So that's kind of two things. There's a stack which will go cooperation between UFI and OCP, but also this is more of also leveraging the UFI.org, and you will see that it's going to be a white paper, and it will be a presentation, and we'll share them broadly with you. The fourth theme, which is the open source initiative. So we published source code a year earlier, exactly, when we published OCS, Microsoft OCS v1. In particular, we published the chassis manager. I will put the source code over there. We put it in OpenTag, and we publicize it. We also, in Paris workshop, we also published the update to the chassis manager, but we also published it's called deployment kit, which is a bunch of tools that allow you to deploy the hardware and diagnose also hardware in a data center setting. We worked with the OCP, with Amber and the rest of the guys at OCP, and we actually now have a OCP GitHub. Okay. So, and the links are over there. We moved actually the new fresh copies of Chassis Manager, so Chassis Manager 2.5. We also put the operation kit, the bits for the operation kit. Now, this is not by any means the end of it. This is just the seed for the source open source code aspects of OCP. We encourage all the members to donate, to take the source code and extend it, make it better, and share it, put it back into the GitHub. This is MIT, at least these two projects are under MIT license, so it's very forgiving license, but we expect people to use it freely, but also share back some of the changes and improvements. There are also some future projects. So we are discussing with other members of the OCP future. There is discussion about OpenBMC. I cannot really go into much detail because it's going to be presented tomorrow, in fact. But there is a notion of open source BMC, and also we are discussing more hardware management tools to be donated to GitHub and OCP GitHub. So this is kind of the other side of the manageability. We want to spread tools, and essentially through the tools we are kind of sharing the best practices and take those tools. Here's how we use them in the data center, extend them, use them, share them back, and that's how we carry essentially our experience and share it across the community. The fifth theme is hardware ecosystem. So you will see tomorrow presentations by Facebook, and we will talk about the SoC manageability. So this is a new single socket motherboard, and they will have a deep dive into the manageability aspects of the single socket side, the study from Facebook, and that. Then we will talk about the OpenBMC TM5. The second hour will be Microsoft OCS V2, Chassis Manager and Deployment Kit. So we will essentially talk about the V2 hardware that Microsoft donated to OCP. We'll talk about the Chassis Manager, and the Deployment Kit will also talk about the power management. So some sort of like dynamic power capping, like how do we manage. On the hardware side, on the server side, we will talk about local energy store, which is essentially the battery, where we take the battery and the PSU. We'll talk about the manageability and the features of that as well into the second half hour of the talk. So I think, any questions?
One thing I would say, and reiterate what Jason said, was participation is the key. So encourage everybody to participate, and that's the only way we can take this further. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to advance the slide. Up next, we have our HPC group co-lead. We have Devesh Paul. Is getting ready to come on up to the podium now. Thanks, Deb. Just for you all that are standing in the back while Deb's coming up to the stage, you know, this session does last till noon, so if you want to find seats in here, or there's an overflow room down where it says networking, which this is being broadcast down there as well. So I don't know that I would want to stand up in the back of the room, but I think I'm wearing a little bit different shoes than you all are. So and with that, Deb, you have the floor.
Okay, is mic working? Yes. Okay. As you can see, my slide is thanking you for being here. So I apologize. Forwarded it one more?
No, you forwarded one.
One. Okay. So so basically, I should have some slides for you, but I was bouncing in between Mobile World Congress and here, and somewhere in between. I did my laundry at my home. So I'm just going to go off my notes, which I put together on my phone in the last 15 minutes because I don't have paper anymore, and the only thing I can write on is my phone. So what's the high performance computing group all about? It was about a year ago at the San Antonio workshop where the foundation approached us and said, we need to do a group here at OCP that covers low latency computing and the type of computing that's not done in the mainstream data centers. To some degree, if you look at what's happening in the server group and the networking group, it's driven by the needs of the large data center end users. But across the world, there's a diversity of smaller end users in the supercomputing, high-performance computing, analytics markets who have somewhat different needs from what we're doing in the mainstream OCP groups. So we spent last summer kind of putting together a draft charter for this, and we kicked off the group at the UNH OCP event and brought the community together with some ideas around what this group should focus around. And we had input from end users, universities, from government research labs, from vendors, from the silicon level to the systems level, up to the, from the silicon level, the software, the firmware, boards, and systems. And everyone came together with all these divergent needs, and they said, okay, let's focus on a few things. So what we decided was, as a group, we would focus on the needs of those who were challenged by low latency, energy efficient, multiprocessor computing. And what we wanted to do was not overlap with what's being done in networking and servers, but come up with either modifications to what's happening in other OCP groups, or we would actually come up with some new things right from the silicon level up to the system level that would address those markets and those end use case applications. So we also had a debate about what this group should be named. We were told it's HPC, so we're going with that. However, there's it covers a broader set of end users. Because what we're trying to do, and coming back to Corey's point about all this innovation is used unless it leads to commercialization, we want to make sure that what we come up with has some commercial applicability. And if we can create platforms that can address multiple use cases, that will result in more success in the market than if they're very specialized. So the use cases we covered obviously are high-performance computing, and extending from that is the supercomputing market, which is basically making systems based on those platforms that will scale up to petascale and eventually exascale. And we looked at a few others, financial markets to benefit from what we're going to be doing. And also there's a mobile edge computing application where the analytics are being deployed at the edge of the wireless network and in the access node. So what we're doing is trying to create heterogeneous computing platforms that can try to address all of these use cases, at least from a hardware perspective, and then the application can run on top of that. We've been talking to a number of end users, such as DOE, Sandia Labs, who will be presenting today and tomorrow. And we also have been talking with the scientific community, such as CERN, on what their needs are. And pulling all that together, we're in the phase now where I think it was the first presentation, people were saying that initially groups have to do a lot of talking to figure out what we want to do. What's the use cases? What do the end users want? What's low-hanging fruit? So we're not kind of working on something that's very theoretical for many months on end, and then at the end of the day, maybe come up with something that isn't really practical. So what we wanted to do was create a framework that allows us to have some early commercial successes. And so in the background, some of our contributors have been coming up with computing, with networking, and with other innovations that we think that can hit the market fairly soon. And some of them will be talking about it during our tracks this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon. We divided the project into 3 phases. Phase 1 is basically looking at what's in the industry today and try to optimize it for the use cases we've defined and make it work for low latency computing. Our goal was in a 6 to 12 month time frame have some form of submissions coming in. The next goal was a phase 2, which starts in parallel, but it goes up to like the 24-month and beyond time frame, which is taking existing silicon in the market today and creating new board systems, NIC cards, and so on that will address the use cases targeted. Now, the third phase is an interesting one, and it's somewhat different from the other OCP groups. What we're looking at is actually defining new open compute standards down to the silicon level. So what we're trying to do, and some of the background that I've been involved with in the mobile industry, wireless and embedded, is basically look at how chips communicate with each other in terms of interconnect. And then my colleague, Tom Summers, and I think Tom's somewhere over here. Tom, if you can come up, actually, and you can close up on some of the stuff you're doing. What we're looking at is how we can innovate down to the silicon level. We're pulling in some of the best practices from other industries where some of this has already been done. We're on the path to make submissions over the next few quarters. We have, in terms of moving all of this forward, all of you in the room, we need your help. Tom and I run around in the background across the world trying to get participation and action from different stakeholders, potential suppliers and end users. We have 2 conference calls per month that are held morning West Coast time and an evening West Coast time. And by doing that, our intent is to cover the whole world between Europe and Asia and North America. And right now, I think we're at the phase where we've locked in the charter. We've started some of the background work. There's a lot of work that people have to do to get to the point where we can actually make submissions. And then once we get there, get to the point where things are actually useful. Some of the things that we've talked about in our group also pertains to the size of our markets. There aren't any massive single volume users in our markets. We have many diverse users, and our contributors have expressed interest that they have to find a way of making money off of their contributions into our group, because they're not going to have like a data center user like Facebook ordering like tens of thousands of components from them or hundreds of thousands of components from them. So what they need is a space to innovate where they can differentiate, but also a space to plug and play where their systems, their boards can work with someone else's boards or networking and silicon that can all talk to each other, and the software works with all of that. So we do have some nice, interesting challenges, but we do feel that there's a big opportunity. We're both involved in parallel activities in the supercomputing industry, in the embedded computing industry. I'm involved also in the networking industry from a mobile communications perspective. So we bring a lot of interesting overlap to our community, and we're hoping that over the next number of quarters we really get to some real good usability success and user success. So over the course of the next day and a half, we'll have presentations from end users, from systems providers, and also right down to the silicon level. We have presentations from guys like TI, NVIDIA, and Cadmium talking about how they will enable our activities, as well as Tom's company, Rex Computing, involved down at the. So Tom, if you want to just pick up anything that I missed out on.
Yeah. So what brought me up here was the phase 3 of our project, which is my focus, and that's actually opening up the silicon level. So my company, Rex Computing, is planning on making the first contribution at that level, which is a open source instruction set architecture and reference designs, and we hope to build that out to not just a high-level architecture that anyone can jump on, but also everything down to the actual RT of the barrel, etc. In the future. So that comes both at the processor, the actual core level, different IP blocks to port interconnects and different accelerators and such. And it's actually developing slowly, but hopefully with events like this, we'll be able to get some more interest. So I guess we're looking at the first contributions, that being in the this coming quarter, but it shouldn't really be picking up until end of this year or early next year. I guess the only thing that I'd like to say is, why should the rest of the general server group even care about HPC? And, I think the main reason is we see ourselves as being the proving ground for the systems 5 years out. So what we're developing in our group, we see as being trickling down to the rest of the OCP in the 5 to 7 year time frame. And in HPCs, while dealing with the biggest, largest systems of today, those are going to be the new standard in the, probably closer to 10 year out, but we'll start seeing them, the Facebooks of today.
Yeah, so part of that, relating to what Thomas is mentioning about the phase 3 of our project, which starts now, but it has a longer timeline, is how we bring the community together to innovate at a silicon level, because we feel like over time, the innovations from supercomputing, high-performance computing, and embedded computing always trickle into mainstream computing. And in the past, what's happened is those innovations have been done in a proprietary way inside the private roofs of certain companies. And we feel that, I think the whole vision of OCP is that the brain power of all of you and your colleagues worldwide is far more superior to the proprietary brain power that may exist underneath only one roof up the street here, for example, or elsewhere around the world. By doing it in a more open way, we can do that. And some of my past experience in the wireless networking industry, we have done that in an open way. And our products from something like 24 companies are interoperable at the silicon level. They pass packets to each other with low latency. And there's no reason why we can't bring that type of practice to initially high-performance computing and eventually into mainstream data center as it trickles out from the higher touch application.
Yeah, I guess my one request from the group would come up to me over the next couple of days, come to our sessions, of course. But there's been a lot of interest from other areas, from people not specifically in HPC, I've seen into FPGAs, just because of obviously going and taping on ASIC isn't very affordable for most companies. So that's something that I think we want to see more of in our group, and that's definitely something that kind of the processor open silicon specifications really apply to the board. So if anyone here has crazy ideas about accelerating your server applications using FPGAs, we currently have a submission that should be coming here soon from ProDrive, which we'll be talking about in our submissions, which is really trying to integrate FPGAs and to be able to make accelerators for applications.
I was actually looking at my phone to make sure I didn't miss any key points, and the last one was accelerators that Tom just covered up. Thank you, everyone.
Any questions?
You guys. Up next, we have networking. I'm going to let Carlos and Omar take the stage. One of these guys needs my mic here. I'm going to give it to Omar. You guys take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Howdy.
Fix that up real quick. Let's see here. Got the arrows. This is
Surface Pro 3, everyone.
all right. So just to welcome. So who here is has been participating as part of the networking project so far? See a show of hands. Oh, great, a lot of us here. So to all of you with the networking project, Carlos and I want to thank you. We are humbled and just actually overwhelmed by all the contributions that all of you have been making and the activity there. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, this presentation is mostly for you, right? So that you kind of figure out, hey, what has been going on inside the community. So the networking project, we started this in May 2013, and it had this charter to take networking and really change it in terms of being disaggregated and fully open. And our network, so to speak, has been busy. Right? We have a number of operators participating actively, vendors, both, and we'll cover this in a little bit more detail, ODMs, OEMs, hardware, software, really at all different levels. We're heavily engaged now with some testing labs. And just as an example of one of the, as evidence of how busy things are, we had one of these ad hoc meetups last year, and all of a sudden we were turning away people. We had 75 people, and Dell hosted that, but we couldn't host everybody, so we had to turn away folks. It's a really vibrant community. We welcome everyone to come to this. So to give you an overview of the projects that are happening in the community, as well as what is happening from an agenda perspective. You can see the agenda right on the schedule, but they come in roughly 3 different areas. The first is the hardware, right? So you've got a switch, high-speed ASIC. You've even got optics and NICs in the picture here that we're all discussing with the contribution sessions. Software, I put a generic software architecture diagram there with layers and boxes and all sorts of stuff. We have several sessions on low layer at the bottom of the software stack, the operating system, Linux, and then libraries on top of that, that exposable functionality. And then making it all real. We have a number of discussions on optical testing, certification, validation. We'll be going over a little bit more of that. So we drill in a little bit into the hardware. It's been a busy year. We're happy to announce that actually last quarter we had our first accepted network switch from Acton, 48 by 10, 6 by 40. It's integrated with a number of software projects. Full design package will be available as of the summit. And this is really an industry first, where you can get a full design package. BOM, Gerbers, design files, everything for one of these switches. And there are several other commissions that are active in review with the incubation committee, getting sort of the final bits of review and I's dotted, T's crossed. So we're excited there on the hardware side. Actually, and all of this is on the wiki. There's more that's going to be announced and shared during the session, so please be encouraged. I don't want to scoop everybody here, so let's move on. So on the software side, there are hardware and software. That this is traditionally a monolithic thing. We've talked about this before. Disaggregation. Look, we should look at hardware separate from software. There's a number of active sub-projects already happening in 2014. So the Open Network Install Environment is the installer project. It's well established, it's broadly used by a number of vendors. We've been pushing this into testing and certification. Our first batch of switches got certified earlier last month and even early this month. Open Network Linux is a project that was recently accepted. Provides a reference open source NOS for people to build on top of. Different layers inside of it, support forwarding models and support hardware. And the latest thing, one of the libraries on top, take a look at the little architecture diagram, the switch abstraction interface. really excited about this, and I would encourage you to come to a demo that's going to be hosted by the contributing companies tomorrow afternoon, where we're going to show a demo of multiple switches, multiple ASIC vendors, multiple systems, multiple operating systems on top, all interoperating. This is with Dell, Mellanox, Microsoft, Broadcom, and Mellanox. Did I get it all right? Yes, there's so many people participating there. So yeah, Broadcom, Mellanox, Microsoft, and Dell. Please come to that forum. And again, a lot of this is on the wiki. There's more coming in the sessions. APD is a ACPI, a platform description initiative. We have a session on that this afternoon, and more software will be announced from the session. That's hardware and software. I'll turn it over to Carlos to talk about a bunch of our testing.
So hardware and software is just a part of the problem that we have in networking. The biggest piece is making it real, making it work with your existing networks, making it real for green pastures. This is where we're turning our efforts to testing. Right? It's not just about validating of OCP components, but it's also about the integration of not necessarily other non-OCP components, but other OCP components. This includes hardware that has been gone through and certified by OCP, ONI that has been gone through and certified for a particular platform, right? APD, optics, we keep on adding. And then we start adding NOSes, making the box real, making it forward packets. But yet, we cannot interoperate with anyone without optics. Then we integrate with optics. It's another milestone, another step. And then it's all about interoperability. So as another way to present this is, imagine a funnel, an open compute technology incubation happening right now. We have a lot of different software projects, hardware projects coming down the pipeline. You have SAI, ONL, ONI, hardware, other bubbles that will be coming through this funnel. Right? This is where the action's happening. And currently right now is when the spec is submitted, we have a test plan, we validate A equals B, we give it the stamp, that's component validation, right? We're doing that today. What we need to do is we need to do the other two pieces of the pie to make open networking real, accessible, consumable to the enterprise markets. So what do we do? So our plan right now is from component validation. We're going to take individual OCP components. We're going to make sure they're validated. Then we're going to take those OCP components, we're going to combine them, and we're going to validate them again to make sure that they all work together. Right? This successful validation is what's going to earn you an OCP seal certificate. Next, integration of non or other OCP components. What is the plan? The plan is to take the addition of the NOS. You take Cumulus, take Big Switch Switchlight, take PICOS, take ONL, or any other open source based NOSes. Put them on the box. Add FRUs, right? We have transceivers, we have AOC cables, we have DAC cables, right? We possibly have the addition of other technologies that haven't been discussed yet, just like NPUs, etc. The first crack that we had for this integration of the other components happened 2 weeks ago at a OCP member entity called University of New Hampshire Interoperability Lab. Right? We had 6 vendors come, support, and sponsor this effort to flush out a process and a plan that we have in the mix before we can say this plan is ready to go. Right? We like to test things out, make sure they're working before we say, okay, this is the process we're going to use, move it. Right? Like to make a special call out to these 6 companies and to also to UNH for hosting this event. Learn lots of discussions happening, lots of, the test report will be coming out, posted on our wiki in the next week or two, and the next rev of this test plan will be happening as well in the next week or so. Now for the industry interoperability, right? Now it's the end piece. This is the end game. We want to take and leverage everything that we did from the other two pieces. But now we're going to interoperate with the traditional network equipment and vendors and protocols, right? You know these guys. Right now, they're probably powering your data center. You wouldn't be here if you didn't like the job that they're doing. This is what, however, it's like you're not going to replace them with us immediately. That's something we can't ask for, and that's something you're not going to do. So what we have to prove is we have to win your confidence. To win your confidence, we have to show that we will interoperate with these guys. Our quality is just as good as these guys. Our functionality is just as good as these guys. And that we plan on doing that through interoperability testing. And we plan on doing this using whatever new network equipment that comes out, whether that's the Ixia, Experian, etc. And any other protocols that come down the line. Because one, there is no community without users. And the only way we can win users is with confidence. And the only way open networking wins is when you vote with that confidence, i.e. spend money. So what's next? So this year's roadmap, on the hardware side, we're going to go beyond the Tor, right? We have enough Tor submissions, so we're going to go beyond that, right? We're going to start turning our eye to optics, right? We're going to start seeing 100 gig plus submissions. That's where the users want to go, and that's where we're going to take it. And the software side, we're developing a rich software ecosystem. All right, we're going to have more open source SDK and libraries and apps to make sure that we are going to approach a true open source software stack available to everyone. This hasn't happened in our industry ever. We're going to be pushing for this. We're going to have lots of discussions and whatnot throughout the next couple days to show you how we're going to get there. Testing. Well, we need more of it. Right? What we've done is a good step, but we need more. We're going to be fleshing out the certificates, the processes. Right? We're going to start looking at solutions for specific use cases that users have, whether it's big data, high performance computing, the cloud. Whatever use case you're thinking of, we're going to start targeting solutions specifically for that to show you that what we have in our community is real and can power next generation systems. But we need your help, right? We don't work in a vacuum and we don't work in a silo. So in terms of certification and interoperability, we need assistance in overall validation, integration, and interoperability. Right? We need help driving these processes so that when a consumer buys a given switch, we'll just say at Best Buy or some other third-party independent VAR or what have you, they buy with confidence. They know what they're buying, and they know what they paid for. And in general, we need more software infrastructure support. We're at the point where our software projects are dominating the community. We're having, on average, 3 or 4 pull requests per week, and that number is only coming up, right? We need infrastructure support to provide automated build and regression testing for every pull request and commit that happens on these systems. We need infrastructure to basically, so if I commit an ONI patch, we do a regression test on all ONI-enabled devices in the backend to ensure that it didn't break anyone, right? That's the step that we're next. With collaboration and infrastructure and support, this is general across the board, right? We started doing the Hangouts. That's nice. We have people right now in remote participation on IRC to make sure they can ask and answer questions. Awesome. But then we're not the only people that need this. We need something that goes to the next level. We can't always meet every month or every couple weeks, at a given location. Our group is just too big. We need new tools to support this new working model. And last but not least, we need a scalable, reliable funding model for our network-specific activities. A lot of this doesn't happen for free. Testing equipment is not free. Personnel performing the testing is not free. This is something I think that we as a community can come together and solve sometime early this year, and we can lift the entire community together. Any questions? Any questions on the IRC? Does anyone have an IRC channel I can relay some of this? All right.
Thank you all.
Up next, we have our Open Rack project lead. We have Steve Mills and Brian Obenesser. And I'll give Brian the mic.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Mills. I am a mechanical engineer at Facebook. Brian Obenesser, data center architecture for Fidelity Investments. We're going to go through the Open Rack project real quick. So, first thing I'm going to talk about is kind of the status of where we are for this year. So, this kind of shows you the breadth of the submissions that we've received this year. So, the first thing that we had was the Open Bridge Rack, which was submitted by Fidelity. So that went through the IC this year. The rest of the submissions that we've got have all been from Facebook. So most of these submissions have been really in the last couple of months. So the bulk of what we're going to be talking about in the workshops over the next couple of days is all going to be, at least the first day today and tomorrow is going to be related to going into detail on these different submissions. So we have the Open Rack frame, which is out there in the wiki for people to take a look at. As well, there's also the Cubby subchassis from Facebook. So Cubby is a project that includes subchassis, allows multiple nodes of IT gear to get plugged into a single bus bar. So the other submissions that we'll be talking about from Facebook is have the Power Shelf, which includes both the AC to DC PSU units as well as an integrated BBU. We also have some submissions related to a host of PDUs you can see there, depending on where you are in the world.
Sure. Yeah. So the summit topics that we have for our schedule for this week on Monday, Facebook will be reviewing the Open Rack V2 with its associated Power Shelf. We'll also be covering the V2 BBU, as well as the Open Rack standard updates to version 1.2 on Monday.
Yeah. So for the last year, the 1.1 standard's been out that the community's been working under. So we'll be going through all of the feedback that we've gotten from the community over the last year and going through the finalized 1.2 proposed standard. And hopefully by the end of the workshop, we'll be able to get that approved.
And then on Tuesday, we've got the introduction to Open Rack scheduled. We've also got Rital and both Schneider speaking at that event. On Wednesday, I'm particularly excited. The Fidelity Open Bridge Rack design that we contributed last year, there are 3 new manufacturers in that space now. So we'll be hearing from Belton, Delta, and Stack Velocity on their Open Bridge Rack designs.
Yeah, so just in the last year, we've had quite a bit of increase in the number of rack suppliers that have started developing not just the Open Rack, but as well as the Open Bridge Rack. Quite a bit of growth in that area. We've been very excited about. So that's it from us. Unless there's some questions. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Up next, we have our server group. And we have John Stu and Mark Shaw. Sorry. Reintroduce yourself.
I'm John Stewie with Dell, co-lead the server working group with Mark.
Yeah, Mark Shaw with Microsoft. Happy to be here. John said co-chairs with the server group. The server group has become very busy in the past 6 months, so it's great to have both of us here to help. We have a lot going on. You know, as I say, there's a lot of submissions that really started to come up, and we've got several themes for this week. The first theme is the Open Cloud Server submission that Microsoft did our V1 a year ago. We did a version 2 submission last fall, but as we complete and add items, we've done more submissions that we'll talk about in a bit. So there's new systems coming out. So there's a new one-socket server specification. It's a nice card that Facebook has contributed. It's already out on the spec, or out on the wiki. That we're going to go into more new processors, brand new instruction set coming to OCP. There's some networking, not networking as in the that you just heard about, but more like NICs. How do we get out to the switches? And we've got some additional presentations as well. We have a very full agenda. So I'm going to deep dive in, or I'm going to talk about each of the different areas. So the Open Cloud Server submission, we wanted, because really only the people in Europe have seen that, we wanted to give you an overview again and some deep dives into the system and the hardware. And so we'll be doing that today as well as tomorrow. So today is more of an overview of the the entire system submissions that we've done past year. Tomorrow will be a deep dive into the details of that. We're happy to bring our local energy storage power supply. So that is a new addition to the V2 system. It allows an embedded or distributed battery backup system so that we can eliminate the big battery rooms and that sort of thing from the data center. We'll also be showing the cloud solid state drive. This is an M.2 form factor. So if you go and you crack open your little laptops, you'll find these little M.2 sticks. They're high performance. The new versions are PCI Express. They are client. They are cheap. They are right in the industry of all those tablets and laptops. So next is the systems on chip. So the one-socket server specification. So on Wednesday, Facebook is going to go through the details of the one-socket specification. So the one-socket is basically, if you think of the microserver that's been at the, several summits before, that's a small card like this. The one-socket extends it, makes it taller, gives more connectivity, more power, more room for memory, for DIMMs, higher power processors, that sort of thing. There are 2 submissions for using that one-socket card in a platform. So Facebook will be giving their one-socket platform, and Microsoft will be also showing a quad system that plugs, it's a tray that accepts 4 of these and plugs into the Open Cloud Server V2 system. So this afternoon, we're happy to host the
open power, so the open power server. So Barreleye, a presentation from IBM will be given, bringing that brand new instruction set, high performance processors into OCP. So networking, so Nick, so there's been a lot of great collaboration and work in the server committee on the network mezzanines. So there's the original network mezzanine had been made larger so that we could have more room for like 40 gig QSFP connectors, a little more cooling, that sort of thing. So this is from the specification itself. It shows that there's even room for like quad 10 gigs coming out of it. Mellanox is going to be giving a presentation on their ConnectX 4. They have a card built to this form factor as well. So a lot of discussion about certification. So it's really interesting. So every company's got their version of an AVL, approved vendor list. So you take this hardware, you put it in the machine. Does it actually work? So the surprising thing is that you think a DIMM is a DIMM is a DIMM, right? You plug them in, they all work, right? What we've learned is they don't always work, John. I'm sure you can have lots of experience with that. So Barbara from Future Plus Systems is going to be giving us a presentation on hardware, test hardware that can be used to certify DIMMs to make sure that your memory controllers and everything all work and meet standards. Likewise, we have data center as a platform. Experiment with PCI Express Fabric. This was a concept from last year, but John Murray from Splitted Desktop Systems has an updated version. An interesting thing that John Murray is doing is he's working to get the crowdsourced funding and open source mechanical tools such work on this platform. So that's an interesting development for OCP, and we'll see where the community takes. So we have a lot. John and I have a lot going on this week. We wanted to have shared workshops with hardware manageability, with certification, but all the slots are filled. So, we welcome your participation, and we'll see you at the breakouts. Thank you. Questions? Excellent.
Thank you. Before I invite Asgar up to give a storage project overview, I want you all to be thinking about the questions that you may have that you wished you to ask our project leads when they were up here speaking out. You've had time to digest some of the earlier presentations. What my project leads don't know is I'm going to invite them all back up here to answer questions from you all once we finish this. Because I've heard, as I'm walking around, some of the conversation and whispers that continue after their presentations end. Keep in mind that we do have a whole afternoon of presentations, but just general stuff about Open Compute, about anything you want to know about the foundation that we can talk about within reason in here. I am doing a 101 session on Tuesday, so if you have questions like that, you get the preview of that in here this afternoon. And also, I'm looking around, and I know if I was you all and I was sitting in those seats, I would be getting kind of uncomfortable right now. So let's do some exercise. Let's stand up for a minute. Everybody just stand up and stretch for just a minute, because I know that I would be getting kind of tired. And we didn't schedule a break, but if you have to leave, feel free to leave and then come back or whatever. So just stretch for a minute, and then Asgar, come on up, and then you guys can have a seat back down after you stretched, and then we'll get started on storage.
Thank you. I think I'm on.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Now everybody jump up and down a little bit.
We'll play Simon Says next.
All right, thank you very much, Amber. So I'm Askar Riyahi, working with the storage team. First, let me ask you, who from the storage team is here? How many of you have attended storage calls? One. Okay, thank you. So we need more. That's the first message I would like to bring to you, that storage team has monthly calls, even months at even hour 4 p.m. and odd months at 9 a.m. in the morning. And so please join us for our calls, because that's where we get the ideas, exchanges, reviewing the documents and contributions. So I will go through some of the projects that we have approved through these calls that we had. So we have reviewed the Open Vault, also known as Nox, and version 08 already approved and went to IC, and IC approved it as well. Then we had the cold storage hardware from Facebook, both of them. Then from Intel, the server board, from Seagate, the connector device for an Ethernet-enabled drive, and from Facebook, the Honey Badger. We will have a Honey Badger, which is basically, I think, was mentioned before, the micro server that manages the storage for you. So we will have a nice presentation from Mike on tomorrow, actually. Projects currently under review: Nitro HP flash storage. By the way, we have an interesting, I think, setup outside for those of you who haven't joined that setup. That's a Ceph cluster running on OCP gear using flash storage as well as SMR drives. Speaking of SMR, we will have several sessions about SMR, single magnetic drive, and also 1 or 2 sessions about flash storage and technologies. One thing I would like to encourage you to come and participate today, this afternoon, is the joint session between OCP and CNI and storage team. I believe Thaw will be there, as well as Paul. I don't see Paul here. Paul. We need to work on this certification document, because that would be the document that all the storage contributions will be measured based on that, tested based on that. That will be the foundation. With that, originally we want to have more time, but because of the number of presentations, so we end up with 1 hour. But I think that would be a good start. So if you have prepared, please go read the email. By the way, join the mailing list. Read the email. The link is there. You can download, if you haven't by now, the certification document, which we will review. This is a project on hold. I just put it here so that you know it was contributed, and the contribution team asked us to put it on hold for now. So we'll see if they will continue with, you know, the questions or requests that we provided to modify the document. So websites, you're familiar with that. What I would like to encourage you to look at is the wiki site, because all the documents, including presentations from all the summits as well as this summit, will be hosted there. So I'm planning to upload all the presentations as the speakers are talking, so that our friends who are joining us remotely can download and have the presentations as the speakers are talking about that, as well as specs will be listed on our wiki. Also, there's a Get Involved mailing list. Don't forget about that, because bottom line is all these projects which are working hand in hand, at the end of the day, everything comes and lands at the store. So you might want to be really active and get participated at storage sessions, because that's where your real data reside at the end of the day. And with that, looking forward to see you in our workshops.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Bill Carter. Bill's with Intel, and Bill has graciously led the effort to start our Telco working group. Our Telco working group is not a top-level project yet, though it may become one based on the participation of you all here and others in our community. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to turn it over to you, Bill.
Thanks. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. Real quick, I'll give you a little background on the Telco work group. About a year ago, by the way, my role at Intel, I'm a data center architect in our cloud computing group, and in that role, I have a chance to talk to a lot of our customers, Intel customers, about the hyperscale build-out, the transformation that cloud computing is going through. And about a year ago, I had a chance to talk to some of the end users, the carriers, and the telecom companies around the world. And it was very interesting because there's really, the transformation that's going on in that segment is very similar to the transformation that we've been through in cloud computing several years ago. And it was just evident from those conversations that OCP is a great platform, a great community to be involved with for the carriers. And so I was working with Cole, the director of OCP, and said, we should put together a work group, an opportunity for the carriers to get together and talk about things that they need in terms of open hardware and how they can work and leverage the work that's already going on and those groups that you've already heard about this morning. And so we proposed a charter for a work group and thrashed that out a little bit and said this is a great idea. I think there's enough momentum in the industry to get together and do this. We then went to Paris and had an opportunity to kick off at the Paris Summit in, I think it was end of October, and so we're going to form this work group. Now here we are in the U.S. and our chance to kind of kick it off over here. Like Amber said, this is not a top-level work group. It's really a community that we're putting together in hopes of bringing in common interests from the carriers and the telcos, and see how we, as a community, can leverage the work that's going on in the server work group, in the networking work group, and in the storage work group. So I volunteered to kind of organize the events today and tomorrow. My goal is that we identify people that are interested in this and that I can work with them in the next couple of weeks or couple of months, and hopefully identify one or two people who would like to serve as co-chairs and keep this momentum moving forward. So we have a pretty simple agenda for today. First off, my high order bid was I don't want to take up your time in a room with talking about what we could do when there's so much going on, so much to learn in these other work groups. I've been involved in open compute since the very beginning. I think it's been about 3.5 years now. Been active in the server work group primarily, also in the Open Rack work group as well. And I know how much I gain in being in those work groups, participating with those folks and interacting with them. And I think it's important that I allow time for those that are new to OCP and particularly came here because of this communications or telco work group. It's important that you get a chance to start integrating into those other work groups. So with that in mind, we have two simple items on today's agenda. At 1 o'clock today, we're going to have a kickoff. I've invited our Director of Business Development for Intel from our Cloud Products Group focused on the communication sector. It's Kevin Johnson. He's been doing this for several years. He's talked to most of the carriers around the world, and he's going to give you his perspective on this vortex that's being created by the hyperscale cloud build-out and how that vortex is an opportunity to allow yourself to kind of get sucked into it as a strategy for the future, a strategy for your transformation. He's going to spend an hour and give you kind of his overview of the industry and the opportunities to create this community and the opportunity to be part of this vortex and part of this velocity that's going on in the cloud. And then the second hour, we have an opportunity to hear from Tom Anschels from AT&T. Is Tom here, by the way? I think he may be setting up his demo. He's going to present at 2 o'clock. AT&T is very interested in being a part of Open Compute, and they have teamed up on, they have development going on where they're disaggregating hardware and software and looking at trying to install some of that SDN functionality in an NFV environment. And so they actually have teamed up with PMC Sierra, and they're going to talk about what AT&T is doing. Tom's going to talk about that, but he's also going to use that as an opportunity to talk about an opportunity to work together as a community on some special projects. And they're going to propose and demo one of these potential projects. So at 2 o'clock, we'll have a presentation from Tom and from PMC Sierra. And then I think they're going to follow that with a demo. And so that's it. We've got 2 hours blocked out. That still gives you adequate time to run off and connect with the server work group, with Mark, Shaw. We'll also connect with the networking work group. I think there's a lot of commonality there. And then finally, connect with the storage work group. So again, I encourage this community, this telco community, let's get together to introduce ourselves to each other. It's our first kickoff here in the U.S. If you're interested in being one of the project leads or co-leaders, I would encourage you to talk about that, and then we'll have some time to kind of brainstorm together this afternoon for a little bit, and then again connect with those other groups. So look forward to that, to meeting everybody at 1 o'clock. And that's it, Amber. Sounds like I'm going to have to come back up, so maybe I'll just stay.
Just stay there. Okay. You can hit the forward button on the.
Okay. By the way, is there any questions?
We're going to get to that. So if I can get all my project leads back up here, and I will hand you the mic here in just a second. You guys can have amongst yourselves. You can talk amongst yourselves. I don't know, do you want chairs up there, or do you just want to stand in front of the stage? You can hang out on the stage if you want to. Have a seat on the stage. Kind of informal, right? I won't make you stand the whole time. Y'all can sit down on the stage. Make yourself comfortable. So keep in mind we do have sessions this afternoon. And where's Corey at? Corey, can you come back up here as well? Drag a chair up. Make yourself comfortable. Yeah, drag a chair up. So if somebody doesn't mind taking a picture of this amazing group. But we heard some great presentations, some great overviews from everybody. You got the chance to meet Corey for the first time, many of you. Is there any particular questions, general questions that you want to ask this motley crew that I have up here that you didn't ask before? Or ask Corey or I something about the foundation, or just something in general that you'd like to know that maybe we didn't cover, and maybe you're not going to be, you're going to be in competing sessions with what's going on this afternoon. Are there any other questions that you have? I don't get these guys all together in the same room very often.
Amber?
Yes.
I have a question for the foundation.
Oh, where's the?
The question I have for the foundation. I think you guys had a really interesting vision several years ago, and it's really snowballed. How many members do we have? I don't know, companies, individuals? Is that a number that the foundation divulges? Because there are a lot.
We will be. It's not public yet. We're having our website redesigned, and that's one of the pages that's going up. And that's one of the things that Frank will actually mention in his keynote tomorrow. So I don't want to steal all the thunder, but I can tell you between now, between when we started in 2011 and today, and that includes all members, whether they were a member in 2011 and they didn't decide to renew their membership. The number that I'm about to give you is a total of all memberships that have ever come into the foundation, not the current number. And we're almost at 200. It's a pretty amazing group of people, and once we publish that full list, you're going to be able to see that you're among just amazing organizations and individuals. On the individual side, those are on the website. You can see the individuals. Last count I had was over 800 individuals.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions out there? You've got this group up here. Question? Question? Yep.
I'm Jonathan Chang from Delta Networks. So I'm more interested on the hardware side. So with the community having contributed to some of the hardware designs to OCP, I'm interested to hear either from the panel or from the audience here, what was the experience of people who take the contribution and actually develop products from it? Or maybe it is too early, on the switch, on the rack, or any other hardware contribution that has taken place.
You guys want to answer that?
I'll take a shot at it. I think I still got my mic on. So, the one thing that I think everybody here is attracted to with Open Compute is that it is an open design, and that they don't feel that they're being locked into a supplier, that they have choices they can make. And in most cases, I think historically that they don't need to, or they need to have that choice, but they don't always exercise that choice. And so it's important to them, for the continuity of their business, that they have options down the road. And so one of the big struggles that a company that makes a contribution has is that, how much IP am I giving up, and am I giving up an advantage because I want to resell this product? And I think what we're learning over time is that that their opportunity their business opportunity to market and sell that product after it's contributed doesn't diminish at all. In fact, it probably opens doors for them. The other thing we're learning is that even though you can open up a design for someone and make it available to the community, that it doesn't necessarily mean that people are just going to adopt it and start building it. Because if any of us that have been in the manufacturing business know how expensive it is to put something into a manufacturing system, and to go through not just, even though you have a design, the smallest investment in launching a product is probably the design. It's all of the validation and the testing and the tooling and the manufacturing processes that you have to, add to that design to really turn it into a product. And so all the suppliers today, that's been their value add, and will continue to be their value add. And so, the perceived threat of losing that after they make a contribution really hasn't panned out. I haven't seen that or witnessed that. So I think it's been a positive experience. We've now operated as a organization long enough that we're starting to see some of the earlier contributions. We're starting to see like a second generation come out of it. I'm thinking about what's happened in the server work group with OpenRack and the original sled concepts. We're starting to see that sled now adopted. We're starting to see more boards put into that sled. We're starting to see more trays come out of that. Same with the networking side with the open switch. We're starting to see some derivative products that are kind of built around that. And so those are the two groups that probably had the longest or the earliest traction was OpenRack, followed by some of the board work, and then followed by the switch work. And so even within the board group, one of the open standards has been this mezzanine card. We're really seeing wide adoption of that and across a broad supply base. And we're seeing wide acceptance of that, not just in Open Compute, but in all of their products. And so I think it's been fairly positive for the contributors, and positive in that it hasn't jeopardized their business. It's actually helped their business. And certainly positive from the consumer side as well. Did I answer that right? Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found interesting in the server group was that the company will contribute their specs for their system, and it's pretty narrow. It's what that company needs for their business. And when we go out and talk to different companies that are using it, what you find is that they're not using what was contributed. What you'll find is there's been a modification and changes built on top. So if you think about it like product portfolio, if you go off to any OEM and look at their server portfolio, there's different market segments. Some with hot plug, hard drives, that sort of thing. What we're seeing is the changes to build a broader portfolio of systems that become more interesting to more people inside of the OCP community. And so that's really exciting, from a server point of view. And the networking is pretty cool because we see a lot of companies jumping on top of that, especially the latest version of the Open Rack networking stack, and see it going into multiple different types of platforms.
Mark, this is a question from another group then. So what you're seeing is...
You're not out there.
I just like to ask questions. But because it'll help what our group is doing. So what you're saying is some vendors are taking the OCP specification and creating products that are superset of the OCP spec. So basically they're OCP compliant, but they have a place for differentiation, value add, and additional additional pricing on top of their base OCP platform, beyond service and sparing and all that other stuff that vendors do.
Right. So I don't know about pricing, but they have additional features that certain of their customers need. The thing that always comes to mind is hot plug. I see a lot of offerings with like hot plug SSDs out front, which like the original Open Rack and the Open Cloud Server platforms don't really account for any hot plug anything, and that seems to be a big deal. Likewise, multiple networks, for your primary backup, that sort of thing, which the original specs don't necessarily comprehend. The challenge that we have is the certification of these. So, actually we've had a lot of specs go through. We haven't had much for certification. And these derivative platforms, you look at it and you say, well, it's off of the base spec, but there's no spec for the new platform. So I think that's one of the things that we have to work on going forward, is providing a method to ensure that these products actually are open compute, that they are tested and certified as open compute products. Otherwise, if you can't test to it, it's not actually an open compute platform.
Another challenge that I see, and I think a lot of people see, is that a lot of companies and others are very interested in OCP, but the assumption is that it's designed for big customers such as Facebook, such as Microsoft, Goldman Sachs, and currently there's no place beside UTSA Lab maybe that you can go and test your application on OCP gear, and that's, I think, one of the priorities that we hope OCP Foundation addresses, that people want to run their application on the gear before they decide to buy it or not. And right now that's not applicable. Secondly, they think it's only for scale out environments, so small, medium customers to go, okay, that's only for Facebook or Microsoft, big data centers. Whereas if you want to get into really co-locations, people who are deploying not that many thousands of servers and storage, we need to have some place that people can test their application, test the reliability of environment, because all these certification and all the work they're doing, without that, wouldn't mean anything actually. So that's, I think, one of them.
I think that's a great point. That's really, really important. Just reinforce it.
So if there's any of you all sitting out in the audience today that wants to help set those places up, that people can come. Things about how you get started with that. So, and if you're not busy tomorrow and you want during the right before the while the rehearsals are going on main stage, I'll be in the expo area talking about getting involved in OCP. So I'll go over some of that stuff with you as well. Aaron?
Yeah, two things. First, on what Mark was talking about, Rackspace, I think, with the work we were doing in OpenCube, fits the model Mark was talking about pretty well. We took with two partners, with Quanta and with WeWin, designs based around the Intel 2.0 motherboard, and we worked with them to make some derivatives that added things like hot plug drives and hot plug fans and a little bit different rack service model. We worked with Delta to do a power shelf that was a bit different capacity level, but still compatible with open rack specs. And we work with as many partners as we can to create a commercial model for them to go sell those things. And, you know, our goal at least was to see those products that we worked on get pushed back out into the market. You want to see specifications and testing and all the rest of that go with it. There's a lot of ways that smaller individual companies can go work with partners in the community to make those products have more value for them and a wider reach within the marketplace at the same time. The other thing I wanted to add just briefly is I think the issue of certification and testing, that's something we're going to be talking about a bunch today between Tao and I and a few others. The challenge in certification for a big company like Rackspace or Facebook or Microsoft is very small and individualized, and I think we've all been pretty willing to hand out our test plans and our toolkits and so forth, but you know, we acknowledge those are done for our applications and for our use cases. To build a broader set of certification tools and so forth, that's going to require more users, more input, and more lab work investment than what we have today. You have a lot of people that are willing to give, you know, what they have there, but the gap we have right now is, I think, people don't necessarily have a good mindset framed on what certification means. So we're going to talk about that some this afternoon.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to give you, there's one.
I'm Wes from China. So there are a lot of progress in each project, like the server and the switch and storage. And you like said, but the adoption side is, I think, very slow. But people think it's for big data center. So my question is the two. The first is Seagate have a platform outside. So I see it is based on Ceph and open world storage. So it's like a platform for storage. So, but the question is it's composed of both hardware and software. So I don't know if this whole system will be a platform and contribute to OCP a lot. This is a question for Seagate. So, and the second one is we have servers, network, storage. So, do we have plan to make more platform? For example, a big data platform, some high density computer server and flash storage, and or a small medium size data center, software defined data center platform. Like that. So, do we have any plan on the platform?
So I'm going to take the first step. So I'm going to have to stand up and get in the center. I have this like Napoleon complex. And I'm just going to address it from the networking perspective, and then I'll let you take over the storage. what you see right now is the early adopters are always the ones that are willing to take the biggest risks. And traditionally, those are some of the bigger companies. And what we've seen in the last 9 to 18 months is we're actually seeing mom and pop shops deploying open networking gear. Right, that's phenomenal. And you ask yourself why they want to do that. Well, for them, it's a CapEx and OpEx savings. Right? They're like, I like what these big guys are doing. I want a piece of that action. And so they do. And I think that trend will only continue. And that trend will only get faster and more prevalent as the year goes on. 2015, I'm going to say, is going to be the year for open compute in an enterprise. I think that's a bold statement, but I think in certain projects, we can all live up to that. Like, you will see more OCP gear in more enterprises. Now, I guess to address what you're originally asking for, I think what you're referring to is solutions. You want solutions on top of OCP gear. And if I don't know if you're here for the pie diagram and whatnot of what we're looking for testing and interoperability, that's that last piece, right? So right now, we have UTSA's lab, and they're more geared for that solutions lab, right? Basically, you take all the necessary pieces and you put a specified application, and then you make that solution available. And this is no different than what probably any of our companies do today. So for example, if you go to a networking vendor, you're going to have a solutions guide featuring their product, but it has a full ecosystem. Right? You go to a storage or a server group, and they're going to have exactly that. If you go to the OCP service providers, that's exactly what they do. Right? The difference is that we're going to be doing in this community is those solution guides. Not only is it all based on OCP gear, but they're going to be widely available for anyone to replicate. That's the big difference. So it's like, rather than being stuck with vendor A, with NOS A or B or whatever, you be able to pick and choose what makes sense for you. Right? Choice. Choice, it's the foundation for openness.
Thank you. Let me give you a brief update about the demo station out there. It's basically a community demo station. The original thought was to have several companies work together, whoever is volunteering to provide manpower, gear, etc., to just showcase that the real-world applications, in this case Ceph, can run on OCP products such as Knox, such as Winterfeld, just so that you see that it's a production-ready environment. So what we set up out there is Ceph, which is an open source program you can use for storage management. They are running on CentOS, open source operating system, and the hardware is OCP. So all the core platform is open source, and on top of that, we have just configured a new kind of first time maybe configuration of flash SSD and working with SMR drives. We want just to show you that the real world scenario production environment can run on OCP hardware. And we, Seagate, as a storage provider, provided the storage, but there were other companies like Delta. Anybody from Delta, by the way, here? Thank you for providing the rack, and Utribium, they're there, help us to set up the environment as well. So, and I think, and the foundation probably supports that, in future there will be more community-based cooperation just to showcase what I earlier said, that we need to provide some proof of real-world applications being capable of running on OCP gear in the future summits. I hope it addressed your question.
As you said, it's based on some open source software like Ceph and CentOS. So I think that also you have done a lot of optimization for this power platform on Ceph or on CentOS. So my question is, for such a very good environment, still such a very good, well-optimized platform, do you have planned to upload also the software configurations?
Yeah.
And then for example, if I want to build the same one as your NF hub, but I need to optimize myself and do everything myself. So
we will publish. This is a small version of what we are actually doing. Another customer that I can name it, but with UTSA, huge cluster of stuff with the same configuration, and the goal is to publish white papers, best practices, etc. Exactly.
It's great.
So speaking of the demo station that we have out here, basically Asghar said, hey Amber, wouldn't it be great if we had these racks, a powered rack? We invited the community to bring any type of equipment that they had that was OCP equipment that would fit inside of an open rack. I said, yeah, sounds great, let's do it. And so what you see out there is when we reached out to everyone to say, hey, who's got a rack? It needs power, not just a rack, we need a powered rack. Who's got different sleds? Who's got different configurations that can go in it? So Pear ended up, with Etrium, ended up bringing gear, and Asghar with Seagate ended up bringing gear. Belden supplied the Fidelity contributed open bridge rack that you see out there. It's not powered, but it's the convertible rack. So, and they'll be able to tell you all about those things. So I'm hoping as we go along for not only future engineering workshops, but future summits, that we put the call out, who's got OCP gear that'll fit inside this rack design? You want to bring it, test it, put it in there, let people see it. Let's show the community let's show people who've never seen it what we can do with it. And so that's how that demo area came to be. So thank you all for participating in all of that. Any other questions? Because I'm about to, it's 11 o'clock. We have lunch at 12. I'm sure there's going to be some hallway tracks. You want to break up in little clusters and talk or whatever. You want to pull Corey aside and chat with him maybe. I'm throwing you under the bus right now. Or me. Now, I will tell you, I do need those of you who agreed to volunteer to help me out in the other sessions to do the Hangouts on air. I'd like for you to just come up here just so I can start going over stuff with you, and that way you get lunch and I get lunch too, and we can go set all that stuff up now. I can tell you and each of the project leads that if we don't have a volunteer in your tracks, we're going to have to volunteer somebody in your tracks. So just keep that in mind. So if you pass someone, I don't like to volunteer people. I like to give them a little bit of heads up, but it's really simple. So we have the breakout. So if I could get, I think I have 4 people right now, 5 people. So if I could get another 5, that would be great. Other than that, I'm going to hand the microphone to Corey and let him wrap this up. And I want to thank every one of you guys for doing all the hard work that you do and putting up with me.
Are you guys ready to go to lunch?
Well, it's not served yet. You got an hour.
Yeah, no, but still, I think everybody's ready to get out of here. Guys, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say to the project leads, thank you so much for giving up so much of your time, your brain power, your energy. These guys sacrifice so much of their life to really try to help the project run. So I would like to give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. You guys got a chance to see Amber. She wears about 1,000 hats every week. And I know that sometimes folks think that we may not be getting things done as fast as we would like. But we have a smaller staff. And I have to say that Stephanie, Amber, Cole, Will, Steve Helvey's in here somewhere. And we have several other members of the team. So we have a small team, but I like to call them Cracker Jack. And these guys, they work very, very long hours. So I want to give them a round of applause and thank them for what they do. Going through, I would love to hear feedback. Some of you guys have told me feedback. One of the feedback points that I heard was the next room over, there's a slight delay when you walk in there. That's unfortunately the way it's set up right now. Hopefully we can fix it for another one. I don't know if we're going to fix it that way. Just close your eyes and just pretend that everything is good and it should be all right. I'm joking.
It's only during this session that we're doing that.
So, and the reason for it was anytime slides are up, you're able to see it, but the way it is when you're, it's latency whenever you're transmitting anything over the web. That's just what it is. Is there anything else I need to? Oh, F and Tech. These are the guys who make sure when you walk in, all signage, all of the folks in green shirts, registration, everything to make sure that this facility is running right. These guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And last but not least, I'm going to thank you guys, because I know coming in on a Monday and traveling in and giving up an extra day of work, we're experimenting with something this year. I don't know whether or not we'll do it again next year or not. I've heard some feedback that it might be a little bit more difficult, but we wanted to make sure that we had at least a day for engineering time before we got into the normal conference. But I know coming in on a Sunday, being here early on a Monday morning, and then being here for part of the week, that's taking a lot of time away from family and for work. And I want to let you know that not only do we acknowledge it, but see it, and we appreciate you guys giving up your time. So I'll give you a round of applause, and I thank you for dealing with me. All right, I know your hands are tired of clapping. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys after lunch.
Volunteers.
Carlos.